The clock above the monitor blinked 2:37 a.m. in sterile blue as Marina Carvalho rubbed her eyes and reached for another cold cup of hospital coffee. Her feet ached, her temples pulsed, and the echoes of a code blue from earlier still rang in her mind. It had been a brutal night, but she was used to brutal. Being a cardiologist meant living on the edge of heartbeats, between saving lives and watching them slip through her fingers. Still, something about tonight felt off. Her body felt heavier than usual, her breath slightly more labored. She brushed it off as exhaustion and returned to the nurse's station, checking on the charts of a post-op patient. The fluorescent lights above flickered.
Once. Twice.
Then steadied. Marina didn't flinch, but her hand trembled slightly on the paper. She clenched her fist, grounding herself. "You're just tired. Go splash some water on your face." She pushed off the counter, heart skipping a beat as a sudden wave of dizziness crashed into her. Her knees buckled. Pain exploded in her chest, a sharp, unbearable stab right beneath her sternum. She gasped, stumbled forward, and collapsed hard against the floor. Darkness began to bloom at the edges of her vision. Someone screamed her name, a nurse maybe, but it felt muffled, far away, like she was already underwater. Her fingers twitched as alarms sounded, voices shouted, and footsteps pounded toward her. Her body convulsed once, then went still. Everything went black. She was no longer in the hospital. There was no ceiling, no walls, no light except for a crimson glow that pulsed in the distance like a dying star. Marina stood barefoot on ground that felt like mist, but held her weight. Her hospital scrubs were gone, replaced by something intangible, as though she were nothing but thought in a sea of silence. She looked down at her hands, translucent, flickering, undefined. Her heart should have been racing, but there was no heartbeat. Just silence. And then she saw her. A figure in the distance. A woman. Standing in the red haze.
Still.
Watching. Eyes like molten garnet locked onto hers, unblinking, ancient, patient. The kind of gaze that stripped you bare, without ever touching you. Marina tried to move, to speak, but her body, her soul, was frozen. The woman stepped forward, and with her movement came a ripple, like a disturbance in reality itself. Marina felt something reach inside her, not violently, but deeply. As if this woman knew every secret she had ever buried, every fear, every moment of shame, every heartbeat she'd ever given to someone unworthy. And then it happened. The woman lifted her hand, palm open, and Marina felt it a pull. Not physical, not emotional, spiritual. A tether forming between them, invisible and unbreakable. Marina opened her mouth, not to scream, but to ask, "Who are you?" But before the words could form, the red glow burst into white. She convulsed.
Once. Twice.
The coldness returned, the sterile, clinical cold of hospital lights and antiseptic. "We have a rhythm," someone shouted. Pads were removed. Oxygen mask fixed. Marina's body arched one final time before collapsing back against the gurney, eyes fluttering open. Her pupils dilated. Her lips parted with a ragged inhale. She was back. But something had followed her. As her vision cleared and the chaos of her team's relief surrounded her, Marina didn't speak. Couldn't. All she could think about was the woman in the red mist, the eyes that pierced through death itself, and the sensation that something inside her had changed. Something had been claimed. Marina didn't tell anyone what she'd seen. Not the ER doctor who hovered nervously by her bedside. Not the nurse who held her hand while she vomited moments after being revived. Not her chief resident, who kept repeating how lucky she was to be alive. Lucky. That word echoed in her head like a cruel joke. Because nothing about her felt lucky. She felt wrong. Off. Hollow in a way she couldn't name. Everything tasted metallic. Everyone's voice seemed just slightly too loud. Her skin was hypersensitive, like the air around her vibrated with a frequency she couldn't shut off. And her dreams had become unbearable. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that crimson void, standing beneath a sky that pulsed like a living organ, and the woman with the red eyes was there. Always there. Not moving. Not speaking. Just watching. Her gaze like gravity. Her silence deafening. Marina would wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, pulse racing like she was running for her life. She took 2 days off after being discharged, not because she wanted to, but because her attending practically forced her. Rest, they said.
Process, they said.
But how do you process something that doesn't belong in the realm of the living? How do you explain to anyone that for 3 minutes, you weren't just gone, you were claimed? Marina sat in her apartment on the 3rd night after the incident, wrapped in a blanket that didn't warm her, staring at a glass of water she hadn't touched. Her phone buzzed with messages she didn't answer. Friends.
Colleagues. Concern.
But none of it touched her. She felt cut off from the world, as though her soul had returned wearing someone else's skin. She looked at her own reflection in the window, backlit by the street lamps below. Her eyes looked the same. Almost. But every now and then, just for a split second, she swore the irises flickered. Not brown, but something darker. Almost black. And she hadn't told anyone about the strength. The moment 2 nights ago when she'd opened her medicine cabinet and the door jammed, then came off entirely in her hand like it had been made of cardboard. Or the way she could hear her neighbor's heart beating through the wall, rhythmic and distracting like a drum inside her skull. She told herself it was PTSD. Maybe brain damage. Maybe trauma hallucinations. But deep down, she didn't believe it. Because deep down, she could still feel that presence. That woman. That thing. And she had a name now. She didn't know how she knew it. No voice had spoken it. No whisper had passed through her mind. But the name was there, planted in her like a brand beneath her ribs. Livia. It came with weight, with cold, with a strange, inexplicable ache. Livia. She said it aloud once, in the bathroom mirror. And for a single instant, she swore the air shimmered behind her. A movement in the reflection that hadn't been real. Couldn't have been. Marina didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. She paced, restless, unable to shake the feeling that someone was nearby, that someone was waiting. Around 3 a.m., her phone vibrated violently and fell off the counter. When she picked it up, the screen was black. And then a message appeared, glowing red against the dark. You're not imagining it. She dropped the phone. Her heart seized. Her breath caught. But when she picked it up again, the screen was normal. No message. No trace. But she knew. She fucking knew. She wasn't imagining it. Something had come back with her. And now it was coming for her. She spent the next day in the hospital, forcing herself into normalcy. She rounded on patients. She pretended not to notice the way people flinched slightly when she passed. She ignored the stares from one of the ICU nurses who said, "You're back on your feet fast." Almost like you never died. Marina had smiled tightly. But inside, she was screaming. Later that afternoon, in the locker room, she undressed slowly, carefully, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical fatigue. When she pulled her scrub top over her head and turned toward the mirror, she froze. There, along her shoulder blade, barely visible like an old scar, was a mark. A perfect circular symbol etched into her skin like it had been burned into her soul. Intricate, ancient, and pulsing faintly with heat. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew who had left it. And that night, when she closed her eyes again, Livia was no longer standing still in the red mist. She was walking toward her. Marina didn't know why she went to the hospital chapel that night. She didn't believe in anything. Not anymore. Not since the silence she'd felt during those 3 minutes. Not since the crimson world with no God, no comfort, no salvation. Only her, suspended in time, and the eyes that undressed her soul. She didn't believe in ghosts either. Or demons. But she was no longer sure that what had followed her back from the void could be defined by anything as simple as belief. She just needed quiet. Somewhere to think. Somewhere away from the monitors, the white coats, the smell of blood and alcohol and latex. The chapel was dimly lit, cold, and empty, except for a flickering red candle left burning in the corner, like a mistake or a warning. She sat in the back pew, pressing her palms together, without realizing it. Her fingers felt stiff. Her bones ached. She hadn't told anyone about the mark yet. The way it pulsed when she was alone. The way it burned when she thought about the name. Livia. Her entire body was changing.
She knew that now.
She hadn't bled in days, though she should have. Her heart rate stayed impossibly low, like she lived in slow motion. Her teeth hurt in ways she couldn't explain. She hadn't eaten anything in 24 hours, yet the only thing she craved was something she couldn't name. And the woman was always there. In reflections, in her dreams, in the air around her. Sometimes Marina would be speaking to a patient and feel a breath that wasn't hers graze the back of her neck. Sometimes she'd look into a mirror and swear she saw two figures instead of one, herself and someone just behind, blurred but unmistakably feminine, tall, watching. That night in the chapel, she whispered the name again. Not aloud, not this time, just in her mind. Livia. And the candle flickered violently. Marina froze. Her throat tightened. The air turned heavy. It was subtle at first, like the oxygen had thickened, like the molecules themselves obeyed something older than gravity. And then she felt it. A shift. Her skin broke into goosebumps. Her mark burned. And she knew she was no longer alone. Slowly, she stood, her eyes scanning the dark chapel. There was no sound, no footsteps. But when she turned toward the candle, she saw it. A silhouette. Lean.
Still.
Unmistakably female. Long dark hair that shimmered like black silk in the faint light. And eyes.
Red.
Burning. Familiar. Marina couldn't breathe. Her lungs refused to move. The figure stepped forward, soundless, but with impossible weight, like the air bowed around her. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was low and melodic, like distant thunder across water. You remember. Marina tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. Livia stepped even closer, and Marina's knees nearly buckled. She wasn't just beautiful, she was unreal, unnatural. Skin like porcelain, features carved with the precision of centuries. But what struck Marina most was the feeling, that same pull she'd felt in the red mist, but now intensified.
Raw. Alive.
What are you? Marina finally whispered. Livia tilted her head slightly, those crimson eyes narrowing with something between amusement and longing. You already know. Marina backed up, her body trembling despite the fire rushing through her veins. You were there when I died. You weren't dead, Livia said, her voice softer now.
Not yet.
You were on the edge. Between breaths. That's where I found you. Why me? Marina demanded, voice cracking. What do you want from me? Livia's expression shifted. For a moment, something ancient passed across her face. Not pain exactly, but gravity. Regret. I didn't choose this, she said. You were seen. And once a soul is touched in that place, it belongs. Belongs? Marina's heart slammed against her ribs. To you? To the bond, Livia corrected. It's older than either of us. I didn't invent the law. But I felt your soul before I saw your face. You weren't supposed to be there, Marina. But you were. And I couldn't let go. Marina's legs gave out, and she sat hard on the pew, dizzy. You did something to me. Yes, Livia said. But not in the way you think. I didn't bite you. I didn't turn you. Not in body. But your soul carries my mark now. That's why you're changing. That's why you feel me. You touched my soul, Marina said hollowly. That's why I can't sleep. Why I feel you even when I'm awake. That's why your body is becoming something new, Livia said. You're not human anymore. Not completely. Marina looked up sharply, fear clashing with something deeper. Curiosity, heat, even awe. Then what am I? Livia's eyes softened. She approached slowly. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. Closing the distance, and for the first time, Marina didn't move away. You are the beginning of something powerful.
Rare.
Dangerous. Livia reached out a hand, not touching her, but hovering just above Marina's cheek. You scare them now, don't you? Your colleagues. They see something in you they don't understand. That's because their instincts recognize you're no longer one of them. Marina couldn't speak. The truth of it was too loud inside her. The silence of her own body. The hunger. The strength. The nightmares. The mark. It was all real. Livia dropped her hand, her voice low. Others will come for you. Ones who feel the mark. They won't care about the bond. They'll want to claim you, break you, use you. Then why are you here? Marina asked. What do you want from me? Livia's answer was immediate. To protect you.
To teach you.
To stop what's coming. Marina laughed, bitter and breathless. You're a vampire. Why should I trust anything you say? Livia smiled. Because despite everything, you haven't run. Marina stood, trembling but grounded now, something waking in her chest like a second heartbeat. What happens to me now? She asked. Livia looked at her with a gaze that stripped away the last fragments of doubt. Now, Marina, you choose. And just as Marina opened her mouth to speak, the door to the chapel slammed open. Cold wind rushed in, and behind it, two shadows crossed the threshold, eyes glowing faintly and hunger radiating off them like heat. Livia's face darkened. Her body moved in front of Marina's, protective, still as death. Too late, she whispered. They found you. Marina didn't see them move. One moment they were shadows in the doorway. The next they were in the room, surrounding her like a trap closing in. The cold air they brought with them wasn't natural. It pressed against her skin like a scream, sharp and icy, turning her breath shallow and her limbs stiff. The taller one was male, his features elegant and cruel, like someone who'd once worn humanity but discarded it centuries ago. The other was a woman, eyes dark as oil, smiles slow and venomous. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their hunger spoke for them. Livia didn't flinch. Her body moved with a fluid, terrifying grace as she placed herself between Marina and the intruders, her stance relaxed but crackling with restrained violence. She's claimed, Livia said, voice low, lethal. The male vampire smirked. The bond is unconsummated. His gaze slid over Marina like a blade. She's still half human, which means she's still available. Marina's blood turned to ice. Livia didn't look away. Touch her, and I'll make your death permanent. You always were possessive, the woman said, stepping closer. Her eyes shifted to Marina. We can smell it on her. The change. The hunger. You waited too long, Livia. Now the others are hunting her too. They won't reach her, Livia answered. I won't let them. Marina could barely breathe. Her body was frozen, but her senses were on fire. She could hear the way the man's pulse didn't exist, the way the woman's breath didn't stir the air. But Livia's presence roared like a storm behind her, and inside Marina's chest, something pulsed in response. Something ancient, something hungry. The male vampire moved first, fast, impossibly fast, but Livia was faster. There was no time to process, only motion and fury. Her body slammed into his with supernatural force, sending him crashing into the front pews with a splintering sound. The woman lunged for Marina, who stumbled back, instinct overriding thought. She wasn't strong like Livia. She wasn't trained. She wasn't anything but terrified until the woman's hand grabbed her throat. And then it happened. A scream built in Marina's lungs, but never left her mouth. Instead, something inside her snapped. A violent jolt surged through her body, like lightning, like fire, and with a guttural sound that didn't sound human, she shoved the vampire away. Not just away, across the room. Her attacker slammed into the chapel wall with a sickening crack. Marina stared at her hands, trembling, burning, alive in a way she had never known. Livia was suddenly beside her, eyes wide, not with fear, but recognition. You felt it, Livia said. Didn't you? Marina couldn't answer. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her heartbeat erratic but powerful. Her mark pulsed like it was awake now, fully and violently alive. The fight wasn't over. The male was already back on his feet, blood dripping from his lip, eyes blazing with hatred. She's too new, he snarled. You can't keep her from all of us. Watch me, Livia hissed, and then she moved. What followed wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. Livia's body was a blur of shadow and fong and fury. Her nails became claws. Her face twisted, not grotesque, but something unearthly, ancient, terrifying. Marina couldn't look away. She should have been horrified. Instead, she was captivated.
Drawn in.
Her blood hummed in resonance with every movement Livia made, as if the violence fed something primal inside her. When it ended, it was sudden. The female vampire lay unconscious, crumpled on the floor like a rag doll. The male was gone, escaped into the night, dragging his broken pride behind him. The chapel was destroyed. Pews shattered. Candles extinguished. Blood smeared across sacred stone. Livia turned back to her, her face slowly shifting back to something human, but her eyes remained red. Glowing. Breathless. Beautiful. They'll keep coming, she said. Now that you've awakened, they'll scent your blood from miles away. You're not prey, Marina, but they'll try to make you into one. What did I do? Marina whispered. What was that? Livia stepped closer, her voice low and reverent. You fought back. You used the bond. You called on me without even realizing it, and you manifested part of what you are. And what am I? Marina asked, trembling. Marked.
Claimed.
Becoming. Livia's hand hovered near Marina's cheek again, closer this time, and Marina didn't pull away. You've only begun to understand what lives inside you. And now you can't go back. Marina felt it then, deeper than logic, louder than fear. A pull toward Livia so strong it made her chest ache. Not just attraction. Recognition. Connection. Something in her soul whispered that it belonged here, inches from this woman's mouth, this mouth that had claimed her without touch. You said I had to choose, Marina murmured. But if the bond is real, do I even have a choice? Livia's gaze dropped to her lips. You always have a choice. But the bond doesn't wait forever. And if I say no? Marina asked, though her body already knew the answer. Then others will take what you refuse. And they won't be kind. The silence that followed was unbearable. Charged. Heavy. Marina stepped forward, their bodies close now, close enough to feel the cold heat radiating from Livia's immortal skin. Her breath hitched. Why me? Livia looked into her, through her. Because I felt you. And you felt me. Marina closed her eyes. Her hand lifted slowly, against every rational thought, and touched Livia's chest, just above her unbeating heart. A jolt passed through them both. Livia's eyes fluttered closed, a soft sound escaping her throat like a sigh or a curse. Marina's lips parted. She wanted to ask more. Needed to ask. But before she could, the ruined chapel's candle flickered again. And Livia stepped back, her expression sharpening. They're coming again, she said. More of them. I can't stay here, Marina whispered. You can't stay anywhere now. Livia turned, her hand outstretched. Come with me. I can protect you. I can help you survive what you're becoming. Marina looked down at her own hand. It was still trembling. But not from fear. From power. From need. She took a breath and reached out. They didn't speak much on the way out. Livia moved through the hospital's back corridors like she'd memorized every path, every blind spot, every security camera's rhythm. Marina followed, heart pounding, her senses overloaded. The scent of antiseptic was now unbearable, sharp and metallic, clashing against a deeper hunger rising inside her with every passing moment. The taste of adrenaline coated her tongue. She could feel every human heartbeat in the building. The urge to turn back and run toward them, toward the warmth, the pulse, the blood, was so strong she had to dig her nails into her palms to fight it. When they finally exited into the cold, silent night, Marina sucked in a breath like it might steady her, but it didn't. Nothing did. Everything was too loud, too sharp, too alive. She didn't ask where they were going. Livia didn't offer. They moved like fugitives, but it felt more like a pilgrimage. Marina's limbs ached. Her mouth was dry. Her skin tingled with something raw and feral. They took a narrow road through the hills until the city lights disappeared and the forest swallowed the world whole. Then, a house, ancient, remote, built from black stone and iron, half hidden beneath the weight of trees. Livia led her inside. There were no lights, only candles and shadows. The air smelled of wood smoke, earth, and something darker. Time didn't exist here. The silence felt centuries old. "You'll be safe here," Livia said, her voice low. "For now." Marina stood in the center of the wide main room, surrounded by old books, leather furniture, weapons she didn't want to ask about, and a fireplace that burned without warmth. Her body trembled. "I don't know who I am anymore." "You're still you," Livia replied, stepping close. "But you're also more." The bond didn't just mark your soul, it changed it. The longer you resist, the worse it will feel. The hunger, the visions, the pain, they'll all sharpen. Marina met her gaze. "And if I stop resisting?" Livia's eyes darkened, her voice almost reverent. "Then you'll become what you were meant to be." That night, Marina barely slept. Her dreams were a collision of blood and memory and touch. But the memories weren't hers. A battlefield soaked in moonlight. A kiss that burned. A scream that echoed across centuries. A voice, Livia's voice, whispering her name in languages she didn't speak. When she woke, gasping and drenched in sweat, Livia was already in the room, standing by the window like a sentinel. "It's starting," she said. "The memories? The blood remembers. But they're not mine. They are now." The next 3 days blurred. Livia didn't just teach her how to survive. She taught her how to feel everything differently. To listen to silence. To scent intention on the air. To move with a predator's grace. Marina's strength grew. Her reflexes sharpened. She could track a deer in the forest without making a sound. She could hear the rhythm of a storm building hours before it arrived. But the hunger, that was the hardest lesson. Livia never pushed her to feed. But she didn't stop her either. Instead, she offered blood in small, controlled amounts from vials Marina refused to ask the origin of. "It's cleaner this way," Livia said. "Until you're ready." "I'll never be ready to hurt someone." "You say that now." Marina drank. She had to. Her body craved it with an ache that felt like dying all over again. And when the blood touched her tongue, she felt more than relief. She felt power. Images. Emotions. Lives that weren't hers passing through her like waves. One night, she asked, "Have you ever killed someone you loved?" Livia didn't look away. Yes. The weight of that answer crushed Marina's chest. But it also brought them closer. With every passing hour, the space between them shrank. Their hands brushed during training. Their eyes lingered too long in the candlelight. Their breaths synced in silence. Marina began to crave Livia's presence almost as much as the blood. But she didn't know if it was her soul or the bond that wanted it. One evening, after a brutal session of combat drills that left Marina panting, skin flushed, muscles burning, she turned to find Livia watching her like a storm watches the sea. "You hold back," Livia said. "Because I'm afraid." "Of hurting me?" "No," Marina said. "Of not wanting to stop." Livia's breath hitched. She stepped forward, slowly, until their faces were inches apart. "Then don't stop." Marina's hand rose, touched Livia's collarbone, fingertips grazing skin that was cold and electric. Their mouths were so close. Livia's eyes flickered between restraint and hunger. "I don't know what's me and what's the bond anymore," Marina whispered. "Then let it be both," Livia murmured, lips brushing hers without fully touching. "Let it burn through everything." Their lips met. It wasn't soft. It wasn't hesitant. It was years of restraint snapping. Lifetimes of longing collapsing into a kiss that devoured more than it gave. Livia pulled her close, hands threading into her hair, holding her like something fragile and wild. Marina moaned against her mouth, heat flooding her chest, her stomach lower. Their bodies pressed together, mouths opening wider, the kiss deepening into something desperate. The mark on Marina's back burned. She felt it flare, alive, awakening every nerve in her body. When they finally broke apart, Marina's lips were swollen, her breath ragged. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Livia said, "we stop pretending you're still part of their world." Marina stepped back, eyes wide. "You mean?" "It's already happening," Livia said. "Your blood has changed. Your body is different. You can't go back to the hospital. To your friends. They'll know. They'll fear you." "So, I disappear?" "No," Livia said. "You rise." But outside, in the woods, something watched. Something older than Livia.
Hungrier. And it had tasted the bond, too.
The dream was darker this time. Not the red void, not the endless sky that pulsed like a dying star. This was different. Earth.
Dirt. Cold.
Marina stood in a forest of ash, trees twisted into grotesque silhouettes that screamed, without sound. The wind whispered her name, but it wasn't Livia's voice anymore. It was older.
Deeper.
It came from beneath her skin, from a place inside her that hadn't existed before the flatline. Something moved through the woods, something massive and silent and wrong. When she turned to run, she wasn't running on feet. She was running on instinct.
Clawed.
Starved. She tasted blood in her mouth and didn't know if it was hers. When she woke, her throat was raw from screaming. Livia was already there, as if she'd felt it the moment the dream began. She sat beside Marina, silent, her eyes more cautious than usual. "You felt it," Livia said. "Not a question. Something's coming." "It's already here," Marina whispered. Her skin felt too tight. Her chest burned. "What was that?" "An echo," Livia said, "of something very old. Something that wants you." "Older than you?" Livia nodded. "Not many things are. But this one, it doesn't belong to our world anymore. It was exiled. And now it smells the bond." Marina stood, pacing the stone floor of the safe house, panic scraping against the inside of her ribs. "What does it want with me?" "Power," Livia said. "The bond made you rare. Made you visible to things that don't normally see the living." Marina's hands trembled. "So, I'm bait." "No," Livia said. "You're the prize." That night, Livia took her deeper into the woods. Far from the house. Far from the safety of fire and wards and stone. "What are we doing?" Marina asked. "Training," Livia said. "But not with weapons. With will." They reached a clearing ringed by stones, the air inside heavy with silence. Livia turned to her. "You haven't fed properly. Not once. You've sipped. That's survival. But it's not control." Marina felt her body rebel at the word.
Feed.
"I told you I don't want to hurt anyone. Then you'll die. And worse, you'll be turned by force. Do you understand? You're not a patient anymore. You're a target. You have to know what you are before they take that choice from you." Marina's mouth was dry. "You want me to kill? I want you to choose. That's the only freedom we have." Livia turned away and whistled once. A figure was pushed into the clearing by someone unseen. A man, human, terrified, bound at the wrists, bleeding lightly from a cut on his shoulder. His heart pounded. Marina could hear it, taste it. Her knees nearly buckled. "Who is he?" "A criminal," Livia said. "Someone who would have died tonight in a cell. No family, no future. You don't have to drain him, but you do have to feed. Or, the next time the hunger comes, it will control you." Marina stared at the man. He looked back at her with a mixture of horror and confusion. She could smell his fear. Her fangs ached. Her skin flushed. The mark on her back pulsed like a second heartbeat. She turned to Livia, trembling. "I can't." "You can," Livia said. "Or you'll never survive what's coming." Marina stepped forward. Her legs moved without command. Her eyes locked on the man's throat. Her breathing changed. She hated it. Hated how good it felt to smell him. Hated that she was hungry. Hated that she wanted this. She sank to her knees in front of him. The man whimpered. She shushed him gently, like she would a frightened patient. Her fingers touched his wrist. The pulse throbbed against her skin. Something in her snapped. She bit. The world turned red. It wasn't like the vials. It wasn't like anything. It was fire and memory and pleasure and pain. It was truth. It was power. Her body convulsed from the rush. His life flooded into her like music. Images. His childhood. His sins. His last thoughts. She drank. And drank. And hated how much she wanted to keep going. Livia's voice pierced the haze. Enough. Marina blinked, pulling back, blood on her lips. The man was still breathing, barely. She stared at him, horrified. I didn't mean to. You stopped, Livia said. That's what matters. Marina fell backward, panting, the blood surging through her like a drug. I felt everything. His life. His pain. The blood always tells, Livia said. And now it will remember you, too. Marina wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. I hate this. No, you hate that you don't hate it enough. Silence fell between them, heavy, raw, intimate. Livia knelt beside her. You survived the trial. You're one step closer to surviving them. What happens when I don't stop next time? Marina whispered. Then I'll stop you. Livia brushed her fingers across Marina's jaw, her touch both comforting and claiming. But you won't lose yourself. Not while I'm with you. That night, Marina lay beside Livia for the first time. No words. No more blood. Just silence. And breath. And the slow collapse of boundaries. They didn't touch. Not at first. But as the fire burned low, Marina reached for her. Their hands met in the dark. Intertwined. For the first time in days, Marina slept without dreams. But not without danger. Because in the forest, something howled. It wasn't wolf. It was a vampire. It was the sound of hunger, made flesh. And it was coming for them both. Marina felt the shift in the earth before the sky even changed. It began in her blood. A pressure, a pull, a static tension that crawled up her spine and wrapped around her ribs like ice-lace chains. The forest fell silent. No wind. No birds. No breath. Even the insects disappeared. Livia noticed it too. She stood at the edge of the property, her stance rigid, every muscle coiled like a predator about to strike. He's here, she said, not turning. Marina didn't need to ask who. She already knew. She could feel him. Not like she felt Livia, which was heat and weight and magnetism, but something colder. He was not a being. He was a void. An absence of life wrapped in a form that barely qualified as flesh. What is he? Marina whispered. He has no name anymore, Livia said. The ones who knew it are dust. But you knew him once. Livia's jaw clenched. Long ago. When I was still half-mortal. He came to me in the space between night and death. Just as he came to you. Marina stepped closer. Why didn't he claim you? Because I escaped. You didn't. The words sliced deeper than expected. But before Marina could respond, the wind shifted, and the trees began to bend. Not from force, but from presence. Something moved through the forest without steps, without sound. The torches lining Livia's hidden perimeter hissed and died. Shadows grew longer. Then a voice. Not heard, but felt. You are mine. Marina staggered. It felt like her bones vibrated beneath her skin, like her name had been pulled from her marrow and whispered back into her mouth. Get behind me, Livia said. Marina obeyed. But she couldn't stop trembling. Her mark burned hotter than ever, glowing faintly beneath her shirt. She felt it react, not just to Livia's nearness, but to whatever ancient thing was coming closer. The clearing darkened unnaturally. And then he stepped into view. He looked human, almost. But the illusion didn't hold. His skin was pale as paper, his eyes pits of shadow with no whites, no light, just a consuming blackness. His mouth was wrong, too wide, too sharp, like it had forgotten how to smile centuries ago.
He wore no clothes. He didn't need to.
His presence was its own armor. You touched her, Livia growled. She was not yours to take. She crossed the line, the entity said, voice layered with echoes. I was waiting. I reached. She responded. That is the law. She was dying, Livia said. She was alone. She is mine, the thing said. You have no claim. Marina stepped forward.
She didn't mean to.
Her legs moved on their own. Her mouth opened. I saw you, she said. In the red. I felt you. But I didn't ask for this. You didn't resist. Marina felt her knees weaken. I didn't know how. You are marked by two, he said. It tears you. It weakens you. Livia placed a hand on Marina's back, grounding her. She belongs to no one. She chooses her path. No, he said. She chooses nothing.
She died.
I waited. She carries the bond, but it is incomplete. I will finish it. Over my ashes, Livia hissed. The entity tilted his head. That can be arranged. And then he moved. Faster than Marina could register. He was on them. Livia slammed into him with a sound like thunder. The air cracked. Trees exploded from the shockwave. Marina was thrown back, landing hard against the earth. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, but she saw them. Livia, feral and furious, baring her fangs, claws slicing at shadows that refused to bleed. The thing didn't fight with muscle. He fought with will, with cold, with centuries of death coiled into one form. Marina crawled to her knees, vision swimming. Her hands dug into the dirt. Blood dripped from her temple. Her mark was searing now. A brand alive with power. She felt the two of them inside her. One flame, one void. Both pulling, both wanting. And then the visions came. Violent. Overwhelming. Herself in another life. Not a doctor. A warrior. A servant. A priestess. Over and over. Faces not her own. Eyes that belonged to other centuries. And always, always, Livia's face in the crowd, watching, reaching,
dying.
The bond hadn't started in the red mist. It had happened before. Over and over again. Lifetime after lifetime. Marina screamed. A sound of breaking. Of rebirth. The mark exploded in light. The entity froze. Livia gasped. The forest bent away. And Marina stood. Not human. Not vampire. Something in between. Her eyes glowed. Her breath misted in the warm night air. She stepped toward the being who called himself her fate and said, You don't own me. He lunged. She caught him. Her hands burned where they touched his flesh. He howled, recoiling, smoke rising from his skin. Livia moved beside her again, eyes wide. What did you do? I remembered, Marina said. This bond didn't begin in death. It began in choice. Then choose me, Livia whispered. Marina turned to her, trembling raw. I already have. The entity snarled. You will regret this. Not as much as you will, Marina said. Then she unleashed it. Power, not borrowed, not fed, but earned, poured from her, knocking him back into the trees. He vanished into the shadows, wounded, banished, but not destroyed.
Not yet.
Silence fell. Marina collapsed. Livia caught her. Their breaths tangled. Their chests heaved. He'll come back, Marina whispered. Yes, Livia said. But next time, we'll be ready. Marina looked into her eyes. No more holding back. Livia nodded. No more pretending. And then, without hesitation, Marina kissed her, desperate, defiant, drenched in blood and starlight. Not because she had to, but because after everything she wanted to. They didn't speak for hours after the fight. The forest had gone still, unnaturally so, as if nature itself was afraid to breathe. Marina sat on the stone steps outside the house, her body aching from the clash, her mind spinning from the revelation.
Lives.
Faces. Centuries. And always Livia. No matter the time, no matter the form, their souls had found each other again and again, only to be torn apart before the end. This time had to be different. Livia emerged from the woods hours later, blood drying along her collarbone, her movements precise, restrained. She didn't look at Marina at first. Not because she was distant, but because she was trying not to break. "He's gone for now," Livia said. "Wounded. Furious. But he'll find another way to reach you. He always does." Marina turned toward her. "You've faced him before." "Not like this," Livia answered. "Not when he'd marked someone." She stopped herself. Marina stood. "Say it." Livia met her gaze, and something cracked between them. "Someone I loved." The silence after the word was louder than thunder. Marina stepped forward. Her hand found Livia's, cool but shaking. "What are we?" Livia's voice was barely audible. Something that was broken, trying to be whole. The fire inside the house was low when they crossed the threshold. Their fingers remained intertwined. There were no words, only breath.
"Wait. Need."
Marina pressed Livia against the stone wall near the fireplace, their mouths colliding in a kiss that tasted like centuries of ache. Lips bruised, teeth grazing, hands exploring skin that had waited too long. Livia gasped when Marina's mouth found the line of her neck. "Careful," she whispered. "I don't want you to lose control." "Then stop me," Marina said, and didn't. She kissed down to the hollow of Livia's throat, where no heartbeat pulsed, but where something deeper thrummed. Desire, hunger, eternity. Livia's hands gripped Marina's hips, pulling her closer until their bodies molded as one, firelight casting golden shadows over pale skin and dark eyes. Marina's shirt came off first, then Livia's. Fingers skimmed skin. Mouths wandered. The mark on Marina's back glowed faintly, pulsing in time with her need. When Livia kissed down her spine, Marina nearly cried out. It wasn't just pleasure. It was memory.
Echo.
She saw herself in another time, pinned beneath Livia on silk sheets soaked in moonlight. She remembered the same hands, the same mouth, different bodies, same bond. "You feel it too," Marina whispered. Livia looked up, breathless. "Always." They fell into the bed together, limbs tangled, breath sharp and shallow. Lips brushing, thighs pressed. The air between them was molten, and when Livia slid down Marina's body, her tongue trailing fire, Marina arched and let herself burn. Every touch ignited a new memory. Every moan carved history into her bones. She was reborn beneath Livia's mouth, her hands, her voice. And when Marina came undone, trembling and gasping with Livia's name on her lips, the bond didn't just flare, it sealed. For a long time, neither of them moved. Livia lay beside her, fingers tracing the edge of the mark now glowing with gold and crimson. "It's changed," she said. "What does that mean?" Marina asked. "It's stronger. Final." Marina turned to her. "You said it wasn't consummated. Now it is?" "Not just physically," Livia said. "Spiritually. Emotionally. You didn't just choose me tonight. You claimed me back." Marina touched her face. "I remember everything now. Every life. Every end. We always lost each other." "And now?" Livia asked. "Now I'm ready to fight to keep you." The next morning, they left the house. Marina insisted. "If I'm being hunted because of something ancient, I want to understand it." Livia agreed, though her worry was obvious. "There's only one place where those answers exist," she said. "But going there has a price." "I'm already not human," Marina said. "What more can they take?" "Not they," Livia said. "She." The journey took them to the edge of an abandoned monastery carved into a mountainside, a place where vampire queens were once crowned, where blood rituals had rewritten the fate of entire cities. Livia hadn't been here in centuries. Marina had never even known it existed. Inside, the air was thick with incense, rot, and memory. Statues of fanged deities stared from the walls. A great stone altar stood in the center, and above it a mural, ancient, cracked, and unmistakable. It showed two women, surrounded by fire and shadow. One was bathed in light, the other in darkness. But their hands were linked. "It's us," Marina said. "Or who we were." "No," a voice said from the shadows. "It's who you will be." They turned. A woman stepped forward, robed in red and black, skin pale as bone, eyes gleaming like molten silver. "I've been waiting," she said. "The bond returns. The cycle nears completion." Marina narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" "I am the keeper of bloodlines, the reader of echoes, and you are the vessel that broke the rhythm." "What does that mean?" Livia asked. The woman smiled. "It means this life will not end the same way the others did, unless one of you breaks it first." The air turned colder. Marina's pulse quickened. "What are you saying?" "That to stay together," the woman said, "you must do what none of your past selves could. You must kill the origin of the curse." "The one who waits," Livia whispered. "He is the knot," the woman said. "Untie him or sever the thread."
She pointed to the mural again.
And this time Marina saw it differently. In the background, hidden in the flames, was the shadow of the creature who had claimed her in the red mist. Watching, waiting,
feeding.
"If we kill him," Marina said, "we're free?" "Yes," the woman replied. "But it comes at a cost." "What cost?" Marina asked. "You'll have to finish what he started. You'll have to become what he tried to make you." Marina looked at Livia. Livia looked back. "What if I lose myself?" "Then I'll find you again," Livia said, steady. "No matter how many lifetimes it takes." Marina reached for her hand. "Then let's end it." Behind them, the mural glowed, and somewhere far away, the creature who had touched Marina's soul screamed into the night, knowing she was coming. Marina didn't sleep that night. After the oracle's prophecy, after the mural's glow faded and the ancient truths were laid bare, she couldn't close her eyes. Not because she was afraid, not anymore, but because she knew what was coming. The past lives had always ended in blood, in sacrifice, in loss. And now she stood on the edge of a path no version of her had ever survived. But she would. She had to. She sat alone beneath the stars, legs folded in the cold earth, the mark on her back pulsing with quiet heat. She was changing faster now. She could feel it. Her senses were sharper, her skin colder, her thoughts louder. And the hunger, it no longer whispered. It growled. But it wasn't wild anymore. It was hers. She had tamed it, owned it. She heard Livia approaching before she saw her. The faint whisper of boots on stone, the subtle shift in air pressure, the scent of forest and ash. Livia sat beside her without a word, their shoulders brushing. They didn't speak for a long time. Their silence was full.
Alive.
Finally, Livia said, "Tomorrow we go to the well." Marina turned. "That's where he is? Where he waits. Where he feeds. Where he ends. And where I begin," Marina said. Livia nodded. "It's a sacred place. But corrupted. Older than language. Even the oldest vampires won't go near it. But I'm not just a vampire." Livia looked at her.
"No.
"You're something new." "Are you afraid of me?" Marina asked. Livia's answer was immediate.
"No."
"I'm in awe of you." Marina's breath caught. She leaned in, her lips brushing Livia's jaw. "Stay with me tonight," she whispered. Livia didn't hesitate. They returned to the sanctuary room, the ancient monastery walls echoing with silence and candlelight. The kiss was slow this time, not desperate like before, but reverent. Like worship, like a goodbye disguised as a promise. Marina let herself be undressed, inch by inch, her body no longer just hers, but something shared, sacred in the way it pressed into Livia's, melted under her touch, trembled beneath her mouth. When Marina's fangs brushed Livia's skin, she paused. "May I?" she asked. Livia tilted her head. "Always." Marina bit gently, carefully, tasting blood not as a predator, but as a lover. Livia gasped, not from pain, but from connection. The bond blazed between them, ancient and immediate. Marina saw flashes again. Centuries, cities, war, fire, and love. So much love. When they climaxed, tangled in silk and shadows. It wasn't just physical. It was cosmic. Something shattered in the ether. Something ancient burned and was reborn. And Marina, for the first time, felt whole. After. She lay in Livia's arms, their skin sticky with sweat and blood and something unspoken. "If I lose myself tomorrow," Marina whispered, "promise you'll find me." "I'll burn the world to do it," Livia said. Morning came fast. Too fast. The well of blood was deep in the mountains, surrounded by stone and time, sealed behind a veil only the marked could pierce. Marina stood at the edge of it now, cloak billowing, her hands steady. She wore black. Not for mourning, for war. Livia stood beside her in armor she hadn't worn in centuries, her sword strapped to her back, silver glinting at her hips. The oracle had given them one warning: you cannot kill him as you are. So Marina drank. Not from a vial. Not from a man. But from Livia. Fully.
Deeply.
She fed until her veins burned with her lover's blood, until the mark seared like molten metal. Livia moaned beneath her, clinging to Marina's shoulders, offering everything. "Take it," she gasped. "Take all of me." Marina kissed her, blood on her lips. "I already have." When the well opened, it was with a scream. Not sound memory. It pulled at their minds, at their history. It tried to undo them before they entered. But they didn't flinch. They descended hand in hand. The cavern was alive, breathing, soaked in blood so old it had turned black. The air tasted of death and hunger and time. And he was waiting. He stood in the center of the chamber, unchanged, inhuman, infinite. "You came," he said. Marina stepped forward. "I'm not yours." "You drank her blood," he said. "You sealed the bond. And now you're mine by right." "I'm no one's possession," Marina said. "You're a wound that never closed. I'm here to end you." "You can't kill me without becoming me," he warned. "Then I'll become enough to destroy you. And what will be left? Everything that matters." He lunged. The fight was not physical, it was soul against soul. Power against power. Marina's body blurred with speed and fury. Livia fought beside her, blades flashing, eyes wild with devotion and rage. The well screamed. The earth cracked. Blood rose. Magic exploded. And at the center of it all was Marina, burning with her past lives, blazing with her future, untouchable, divine. She was no longer becoming. She was. She grabbed the entity by the throat. He roared. "You are mine." "I was never yours," she said. "But I am hers." And with a scream that shattered the stones, she plunged her hand into his chest and pulled out the blackened shard of soul he'd hidden for centuries. He screamed, burned, fell to ash. Silence fell. Marina collapsed. Livia caught her. The bond pulsed between them, alive. Whole. But Marina's eyes fluttered closed. She wasn't breathing. Livia held Marina in her arms, surrounded by the crumbling silence of the well. The walls were soaked in ancient blood, the stones scorched by power, the air still trembling with the echo of screams. But none of it mattered. Marina wasn't breathing. Her eyes were closed, her chest still, her skin far too pale even for what she was becoming. Livia pressed her ear to Marina's chest. Nothing. No heartbeat. No rhythm. Just silence. Again.
No. No. No.
Not like this. Not again. Livia shook her, whispered her name, then shouted it. "Marina. Marina, please. You can't leave me. Not now." Her voice broke. Her body shook. For the first time in centuries, Livia felt powerless. The bond pulsed between them, but faintly, like a dying star. She pressed her forehead to Marina's, hands cradling her jaw. "I was never meant to survive you," she whispered. "But I will not lose you again." She stood, lifting Marina's limp form into her arms, and walked out of the well, step by agonizing step, leaving the ash of the enemy behind. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise. A weak light spilled over the mountain, washing them both in gold. It should have burned, but it didn't. Livia laid Marina down on the stone altar beneath the old mural, the one that had shown their souls intertwined across centuries. Now it would bear witness to their final test. Livia drew a dagger from her side, sliced open her palm, and let her blood spill across Marina's lips. "Drink," she whispered.
Please, drink.
"Come back to me." Nothing. The blood slid over Marina's mouth, down her throat, but there was no reaction. Livia's vision blurred. Her chest ached. She collapsed to her knees beside her. "I'd give you my life if I could. I'd die 1,000 times just to hear your voice again." Her voice cracked. "But I'm selfish. I want you here, with me,
Now.
alive." Her tears mixed with blood. She kissed Marina's forehead, her lips trembling. "Don't make this the end." Then a breath. So faint it could have been wind. Livia froze. Another breath. And then a heartbeat.
Slow.
Strong. Defiant. Marina gasped, arching off the altar, eyes snapping open, glowing, golden alive. Livia caught her, arms wrapping around her as Marina shook and cried and breathed. "You came back," Livia whispered, kissing her hair, her face, her lips. "You came back to me." Marina clung to her, their foreheads pressed together. "I heard you," she said, voice hoarse. "In the dark. I followed your voice back." "You weren't breathing," Livia said. "I thought. You brought me back," Marina whispered. Again. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in silence, in each other, in the miracle of survival. Later, when they stood again, Marina's presence had changed. She wasn't just part vampire. She wasn't human either. She was something entirely new. Her aura radiated strength, warmth, balance. "I can feel everything," Marina said. "The bond. The world. You." "What are you now?" Livia asked, breathless. "I'm not sure," Marina replied. "But I know I'm not afraid anymore." They returned to the house, but it wasn't the same as before. The shadows had lifted. The walls no longer whispered. Marina touched the stone, and it responded, warm, glowing faintly beneath her palm. "You're changing everything," Livia said. "Even the house remembers you." "I think I remember myself now," Marina said. That night, they lay together not as fugitives, not as soldiers, but as lovers finally free. Their touches were slow, reverent. There was no urgency, only worship. Marina kissed every inch of Livia's skin like a vow. Livia held her like she was holding eternity. "I was afraid of what you were becoming," Livia whispered. "But now I see, you are becoming yourself." Marina smiled against her lips. "And I'm yours." The stars outside burned brighter than ever. In the days that followed, the vampire courts sent envoys, cautious, reverent. They bowed to Marina not out of fear, but recognition. Something had shifted in the bloodlines. A new balance had been born. A being who had died, returned, and destroyed what even the ancients feared. They called her the Reclaimed One. Marina didn't care for titles. She cared for Livia, for the way their hands fit, for the way they argued about coffee, for the books they read by the fire, for the silence that no longer hurt. She would always remember the red mist, the hunger, the pain. But it would never define her again. One night, weeks later, she stood alone beneath the moon, her mark still warm beneath her skin. Livia joined her, arms slipping around her waist. "Are you happy?" Livia asked. Marina turned, kissed her softly. "I'm whole." "What now?" Livia asked. "Now," Marina said, "we live." And so they did. In blood. In love. In light. In a heartbeat that would never stop again. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.